Hello everyone, this is Somnath. I welcome you to my ABAP and Cloud learning series. So in this video, we'll be exploring on the SAP UI5 routing part. So if you are a developer, UI developer and a beginner to this topic, I'm sure that this discussion will be helping you out to understand these routing concepts. So as an example, this application, as you can see, what we have built in our earlier tutorial. So I'll be using the same application demo application to implement these routing concepts. So currently, if I just click on this travel line item ID, I don't see any navigations is happening because as a layman language, routing is nothing but the navigation between views. So what I am interested is something like this. So what I'm planning to do, let's say you have this travel list and if you just click any item on this, it will take you to basically another view, and that is something called travel detail. Okay, what the API that we have used in this application, it does have a booking list also. So I'm also interested to link to booking list part travel ID. So in this particular view, you will also see a booking list. This one is my booking list. So if you now click on this booking list item, I'm interested now to navigate to another view, and I'm calling it as a booking detail. Okay, so that navigations from view 1 to view 2 and further drill down to view 3. So that navigations we are going to achieve in this overall discussion. So let's start with the routing concept first. Now for the routing concept to understand, this routing has three things basically. The first one is config parts, second one is the routes, and third one is the targets. Okay, and we'll be implementing this routing in our app descriptor file, which is nothing but our manifest.json. Okay, so that is the step one that we have to ensure. So after we understand this configuration setup, we have to basically do the next thing, and that is called initialization of routing instance. Okay, we have to initialize this routing. So that is the second part that we have to do. Good. And next is basically we have to do something called obviously different required views and controllers that we have to create so that the navigation works. So view and corresponding controllers, right, that we have to create for this. That's a third step. Fourth step would be something like triggering events, right? Because under triggering events only navigation actually should start, and it will take us to the next view. So let's first follow this 4 parts, and slowly we'll make more complicated things inside. So let's first put this whatever we have understood. So let's go to our application and go to manifest.json. So here I told I have to add the routing part. So for this, what you have to do, you can go to SAP documentations, and other documentations you can search like SAP UI5 SDK, and you can click on documentation and it will take you to this page. And under documentation you have to just write something called routing, and it will search it for you. The first one you have to click, and here you'll see the manifest.json, under which you have to just add this piece of code. So let's copy it first and then we'll understand like what exactly we are copying and what are the different things that we need to focus. We have to carefully copy it because it's a JSON file and all sort of individual commas and everything is important. So where the model is basically ending, you have to just paste it here, do a little bit of formatting so that we can easily understand what we have pasted. So let's save it first. So this routing has three things, as I told: config, routes, and targets. If we expand config, it has certain properties. The first one is calling as the router class. So we are using SAP.aim library. You can use SAP.core library also, and you can use something like SAPui5 routing.router class also. And then what we have to do is, we are telling like all the view types will be my XML views as recommended by SAP also. As we have copied, so view path we need to correct because our view path will be different than what we have pasted. Okay, because this is my namespace dot view is my folder. Now control ID and control aggregation is little bit important and tricky, of course. We'll come to that piece later. Let's understand the rest of the thing. We have routes and it has basically two paths. First route is actually an overview route. We are calling the name of the route as an overview, and it has a target also called overview. So that means it's something like it says like I have one route and the route name is overview and it has a target. So let's see, this is our target and the target name is also overview, and this target is basically linked to a view. Okay, and this view name we have to give something like travel overview, let's say. So we'll be just having a view with this travel overview named. And similarly, it has another route, which is a detail route, and it's actually targeting with a detail as the target, and it will try to open a view called detail. So let's change the view name for the first route. I'm calling it as a travel route, and this one let's calling a travel detail route. So it will be easy for us to remember and work out. If I don't pass a pattern, then it's a default route. If I need to specifically identify a a particular route, I have to give that pattern as let's say detail, for example. Then it will basically select the second route to link to. Okay, and second route, as you can see, it is actually linked to a different view. So now these two views are not available yet. So let's quickly create this two view first, and then we'll more discuss on what exactly we have to do. So two views I have created as per my routing setup: travel detail and travel overview. So in the travel overview, what we have to do, we don't need this shell app pages. Okay, I'm deleting it. I'll just explain why I'm doing so. So this one I need. Let's do a pretty XML. That's fantastic. And this particular view will be sharing the same controller, which is an app, because in app controller we don't have any specific thing done. And so in travel overview page also the same controller, I'm just using it. I don't want to create anything specific for this view. So this view is actually embedding another view, which is a travel list. I think it's pretty much confusing. So let's draw and understand what exactly we're doing. So what I have done, basically, I have one view already existing, and that view name is app, and this app view has one interesting thing, and that is a control called app control. So this is my app view, and it has some control and this control is basically, app control. Okay, if you go to our app view quickly, you see this app control element is there. And next we have added one more view, and this view we are calling it as travel overview, right? And we have embedded one XML view over here, and that name is travel list. And we have more, so obviously this XML travel list is having a dedicated view for that. I'm not drawing it, but you can understand it is basically embedded within our travel overview page, right? Fine, so that pretty much we understood. But why we are creating this, that is something we need to discuss first. If you go to once more the routing configurations, don't calling it out any routing path explicitly, then SAP UI5 framework will understand, hey, this is my default route, and it has to go to a target called overview. So it has to link to a overview page. And here in this overview target, we have a travel overview as a page that we have defined. So that's why we have basically created dedicated view for this, so that my initial or default route can link to this particular view. Still the doubt is not clear. Why? Because I am also calling my root view use app view is my root view, right? So that means I'm telling, hey, this is my root view, and also I'm calling this view should be my default view. So it's a confusing, like how SAP will know like which view I have to actually render. So let's do something on the app view first. Go to app view and remove everything. Okay, so you mean only the app control is there. And if you quickly check the manifest, you see I told something important that we haven't yet discussed. This is the control ID app. So what happens is, whenever I'm calling it, this is one root R1, and it has a target, or maybe I want to select another route, it will take me to another view or another target. Every time you see, I'm just calling it out as the target, but I'm not calling out anything or about the root or the source. So which source this this route should initiate from? So that route we have not yet discussed. So this control ID is basically doing this job. It is identifying a particular view moment it trying to initialize a routing instance, and it wants to navigate to a different view, different target. It immediately starts looking at, hey, where is my root of my routing system? It trying to identify this particular piece, but it will check like, hey, I don't have any routing application ID with name called app. So to make it work, what we'll do in the app view, as this is my app control, we'll be using ID is equal to app, right? Let's do pretty print, saving it. So now SAP knows like, hey, this is my app. Okay, so from app I have to initiate, and as we are not or maybe rather we are interested to show by default this travel overview page, so of course we don't need to give any routing pattern. So we'll set routing pattern is equal to space. So by that it will basically go to this overview page. Okay, overview route it will select. It knows like, hey, first I need to open this app view, that is true, but moment I so this is my, it will first try to open this app view because it's a root view, and the moment it has that routing initialized, it will try to connect the default page, which is a pattern is equal to space. So if I just run this application the first time and I don't do any navigations explicitly, So this internal navigation happens by and the framework will take care of. And that's why from app view, it will first open, and immediately, as app view doesn't have anything now, see, app view is completely empty. It is having only an app control, right? So this app control is telling like, this is my app control, this is my source. So from source, it will first go to the default route and it will open this overview page. Means this particular travel overview will be shown over here, and you will see the list of our travel details. Okay, so this is how the initial page work. So after a lot of coding, you will see there is no difference, but that's pretty much implies like the internal navigations is actually working fine, and that will first a small success of course, but we'll get to know like how this routing with the default first part is actually working. So let's keep moving forwards. Now the next thing is the initialization we have to do, because if I don't initialize, then it is not going to understand where is my routing instance, and it will not be able to select this route, right? So the routing system will not work. So for that, this initialization has to be done in the component.js file, because it's a global scope. So how to do this? So I'm going to component.js, and you can just add this small line of code, and that will initialize my routing. Okay, so can we test now? So if I test, what will happen? We will not see any difference than we are seeing in this application. Like the first page will really appearing, but actually we have shifted on enter content from our app view to travel overview page. So let's run this now, but before that we need to check everything is saved status, and we can reload this application. If it doesn't work or reflects, in case probably you need to ensure you are having your cache cleaned. So if I call, still it is working fine. So to make sure really it is working, let's clean the history so that I don't have any cache values, so that if I just reload, it will start with the logging, and it will really start looking into my application files. And if it works, then we have done the thing properly. So that means this particular pieces we have done perfectly. Excellent. So next thing is the routing for the second route we have to select. Okay, so for the second route means it will go to the detail, and it will basically search for this travel detail page. So now this travel detail we have just created as a copying from another file. So let's remove everything, because I just so we need a controller dedicated for this view. So I'll give it a name like travel detail. So of course we need a controller now. So copying this. So now I have a travel detail as per my manifest setup. I have this travel detail view. This is the view. It has one simple page element to display, like this is the travel detail page. It has a dedicated controller. That pretty much. So we have to now ensure, we have basically completed this particular one, that is view and corresponding controller we have created. So this piece is completed, and so we want like we have to trigger somewhere from our travel overview, or rather, sorry, it is not doing good. Let's write this way. So if we just now navigate, if we want to navigate to our travel detail page rather, so this is our travel detail page. Travel detail as well, the corresponding controller we have created just now. So it will just open it, but for that one step is important, that is the triggering events. So we have to just ensure this navigation hits or navigation triggers from the controller of the travel overview. So now let's go to our coding page. travel overview is actually having the app controller, but ideally this list is appearing from its embedded view, which is the travel list view, as you have seen over here, right? Travel list view. And it does have a controller dedicated for this, and from where we are still showing the message. So you see, like here the message is actually coming up, so we need to comment this one. We don't need to trigger any message. So that means this event part we have taken care of. I mean, this part is now done. Okay. So if everything we have done properly, so let's clean the cache first and reload this application once. This is our first page. If I click on this, voila, we are just able to call the second root also. Okay. I'm closing all. Let's open manifest only. So now we are able to call the second root successfully, and it's actually opening the travel detail page. Fantastic. So that's the second success. And now we have to actually show the data into our travel detail page. So to show the data of our travel ID related information, we have to just look at the second one, which is the routing with parameters. So we have to pass the some sort of a context of our travel ID, a travel instance. So let's go to our project, and this is our second root. Within a curly braces we have to put, let's say, something called travel context. Okay. We have to pass this value from this triggering event. So let's go to our project, travel list controller. And we are just telling about the corresponding path that we have actually linked to our application. So whenever I'm clicking on this item, right, so that particular instance I need to take it back. The moment I am setting it up as mandatory, this travel context, this I'm setting it up as a mandatory. So if I don't pass the value, it will say, it will give an error. So I have to pass the data. Okay, so that's I'm passing. But now this data I have to accept in our target view. Target views are by travel detail. So go to the travel detail controller, and here we need to do one. I'm telling, hey, this is my router instance, and we are just identifying the path, which is a detailed route, right? And if we found this detailed route successful, we will be attaching a method, and this is our method. We can change the method name also. Let's say on route match, route matched, right? And this method we just need to declare now. Put a So that means this is our bind element, we are binding with a particular path, and that path is having a concatenation of forward slash. Then what about the context that we have selected, or rather we have passed from our travel list? So this is the model path we are passing from our travel controller that we are actually resolving inside this travel detail controller. That's very fine. But for which model? Because which model we are actually trying to do it, and that pretty much we are trying with model and call it as a travel model. Okay, because for this model the corresponding path we are binding with the view. That's it. So once we do this, of course still not done, because we have to check our travel detail view. This is our travel detail view. It doesn't have anything yet, so let's put some information. We'll be adding up some forms, I'm thinking. Let's do a pretty XML. So we are adding a simple form, and we are just doing a label and corresponding model model name and the field name that we are interested to show. So that pretty much we are doing. So let's quickly check if everything is working or everything is done properly or not. So this is our target view controller. The on init part looks okay. Route match is also fine. Let's quickly check the travel list controller. Oh, something we have missed out. We have to put constant also. That should have been taken care of, and rest looks okay. So now let's save everything, save all rather, and let us reload this application. See, if I reload it, hopefully it will work fine. Awesome. You're now able to see the data coming up, right, all the way from our travel list to travel detail page. So if this is for first one, this is for second, 4, travel ID for 4, and so on. So it is working. But we should not do a browser navigation bar. Rather, we should have a dedicated back button over here. So let's create this first now. So for that, quickly we can go to our travel detail view, and what we can do, we can create a page actually, and this page ideally we should have mapped entire thing under this page itself, which we missed out. So we can put some title and calling it travel detail page, and then we'll do something called show nav button as true. So it will show a navigation bar, and also we'll do some sort of navigation button press, and we'll add on nav press, some sort of function. Okay, so that pretty much we want to add it. Save this out. So of course we need to, if I just reload this application, probably we'll able to see a back button now, but it will not work unless we write some logic on this detail controller. So let's put some, sorry, not here actually. So this is my, to put here rather. So I'm telling like, hey, I have a history information, but history we need to add as a dependency now. So let's quickly add it up. and that we can use something like this. As a dependency we can add here, and this history we can do a copy paste. So now this is okay. So with the history you're getting an instance. So whatever the navigations we are doing, right, so this is getting actually stored in our history as a, as a hash value. Okay, so that information we need to just retrieve, and we have to use the corresponding window history.go -1, so that way it will just take us back to the previous parent page or the source page where from this navigation started or initiated. And if we don't have any previous hash value found, then as a default we'll always go to the overview page, which, so can we test it quickly? So I think all things are all set. So let's reload this application once more, go back and reload this application. We would like to see something about a back button. Let's see. Voila, its back button is coming up. If I click on this, awesome, it is taking us to the previous page. So now the main challenge comes, and most important is now how to link the list or the detail. I mean the travel, every individual travel ID will have a booking list. How to add this out? It is not much of straightforward, little bit complex I would say for the beginners. So let's focus and make a good concentration. Nothing impossible. So you can also if you just focus it thoroughly, you can also understand what exactly I'm doing while I'll add or integrate the booking list over here. So for that we have to go back to our travel detail view once more. So below forms, I'm interested to add a list page, and list we have already done in our travel list view, something like this, correct? So let's copy this one maybe, or maybe I can just do a little bit easier. So this one, if I copy, what will happen? Let's see. Copying this interface, going to travel list detail, and let's paste it up. So what I have done, we have just added a list control, and of course we have to give a different name. I'm calling it as a booking list. But here if I put booking, because that is what our API links to, and let's say header title of the list, we are calling it as something like booking list, and object page, of course travel ID I'm not interested. I'm interested with booking ID, navigation, on item press, lot of things, but to make it simple I would like to remove everything else for the timing, and would like to only see if the booking ID is being shown or not. Okay, that pretty much I would like to see at the first time. So whether my booking ID is showing or not. If it is showing, that means we have actually integrated the booking list. So let's do that and see what's happening. So let's reload this application, go back, reload this application once more, and navigate to the list page. Voila, we have integrated the booking list. But what's going on? You see, it is actually all 1 2 3 4 all sort of bookings. I mean, do we really have, it's all duplicated? So that means we are not actually linking the booking list with specific to travel ID, right? It's not I mean enter booking list is actually linked to, so this booking list is not dedicated for every travel ID. So if I go back and click on any other travel ID, I will also see the same details. So definitely it is not right. So that means I said it is not pretty easy just with the same defined code piece. It is not going to work. So what I'm planning to do now is we'll have to do something not by this approach. Rather, we have to remove this direct binding, okay, list binding. Rather we have to do the items to be created with our factory template. What is that factory template? So let's quickly check this out. So that means no data currently linked to. So now data is lost. I mean data we are not showing anyway. That's fine. And let's see what's happening. Voila. So booking list is added but no data. That's okay. But we are basically want to display only those booking IDs that are linked to the travel ID 4, let's say, for example. So for that, what you need to do, let's check that out. So now if we just quickly check our API, so this is our travel details, travel list details. And to get let's say specific for travel ID 1, if I just want to find all the booking details, then we have to put something like this slash, and we'll be using this navigation which is 2 underscore booking. Okay, so this one I have to use. So let's run like two underscore booking. And if I enter, yeah, so for the travel ID I'm getting the related booking. So I am expecting only 5 booking ID should be displayed against travel ID 1, not everything, right? So to achieve this, what I have to do, this list, okay, we have to bind specific for this particular result sets, means whatever we are seeing over here, right? So the list should actually contain only this particular result set, not enter booking. That means while we are binding this travel model with the context, at the same time we need to bind against our list. So that means get view dot by id, and we have to put something like, we go to travel detail view, the list id name is booking list, so copying it and put the value booking list. Okay, and this time we need to add something like /2 underscore booking. Name should be properly placed, otherwise it will not work. And also we need to add a factory function, okay, because we cannot add as a during a development time artifact creation, we cannot put all the object list and attributes etc the way we did for our travel list. Okay, the way we did in this list formatting, we cannot do everything like this. We have to create it at a runtime, because we are binding this booking list within this travel detail controller view as a runtime mode, right? It is not a static binding. So that's why you need to create something called a factory. Just quickly check once whether we have done properly everything or not. So this is our factory function, and we are returning, we need to return an instance of SAPM object list item, of course, and this is okay. The first element, generally as a convention, you have to put ID this way. Change this one also, and we need to just display only the travel model booking ID, because it's available directly with the travel model. So because I'm just binding it against this path directly with the two bookings, so I don't need any forward slash over here. The booking ID is fine. we have done a mistake. We have to do bind item, not bind element, right? And if I test it, hopefully it will work. So let's save it, everything. I think everything is saved already. So let's reload once, and let's just go. Voila, we see the items for item 4. If I just go for the first item, it should be showing all the 5 booking list. Awesome. So this how you have to use a factory template to bind the items dynamically, that we have learned. But we need to put little more thing. First of all, this is not because we want to move from this booking list to booking detail, so we need to make this active. So for that, what we can do, a few more properties we need to attach. So let's test now to see if the navigation type thinks it works. So just reload it once more, and if I just test it, yeah, so now I can click it, but I need to attach a function for that. So to do this, we need to add some. Okay, so before we move forward, let's adjust something on our routing part, because routing we need to take care first, right? Go to manifest.json. Currently we have only details, so let's create one more route. Suppose that we need to create. So for this booking overview, travel list, travel detail, copying it, and let's say paste, and we need to rename this one. I'm calling it as booking detail dot view dot xml. Okay, and let's have the form and remove this list page from the booking, and you just call it as a booking detail page. Let's keep a different controller called booking detail, and that's pretty much same coding we can use. And all those things should be, let's say, booking ID only we need to show for the first time, and rest of the things, let's comment it. We don't want to show anything, and just put something called booking ID. Okay, sorry, booking ID, so that we want to show. So now we need to create a booking detail controller. So we need to rename it as booking detail, and let's the route name we'll have to put detail as you have mentioned. Rest all looks fine, and we can remove all the things. We don't need all sort of complicacy over here. And this one we have to just select from booking context. So looks okay, I guess. Model, the same model only. The rest looks okay. And of course we have to do something now on our the booking travel detail controller. So while we call this out, this press function, we have to pass the corresponding booking context. So that means we have to select the item that been marked. I mean, whenever user clicks on this booking list, it needs to capture that value. So for that, similar way we can do like this. We have this router defined in our init. So this .o router, and we'll be calling something called nav. Then our things will be all set. But the problem is here that this router will not get the instance of this controller, but the current reference depicted by this dot router, and the in reference I'm calling it over as this dot router is not same, because this press function is a part of this particular instance, okay, object item list. So we have to pass the actual this reference inside this inside the function press, okay. So for that you have to use something like jQuery dot proxy, and this function you have to call this like that. But still there is a problem, because the return function, this is another function, okay. This factory function is also a separate instance of my bind elements, right? And it is not having the current this operator. So you have to also do something like jQuery dot proxy, and if I just click, you have to call this over here as well. Then we are actually passing the reference of the original controller, and then it will be able to work. Now if I go to the travel booking detail controller, then it should be all fine, I guess. So let's test it and see. If it doesn't work, we have to definitely debug and check. So let's run this out. If I click on that, some problem. What is that problem? It is calling duplicate ID container, okay. So this duplicate ID is a problem. So, and that is what you need to do is we need to go to manifest.json, and here is the same view name that I have given. So let's give it some different view name like booking detail, okay. So that's any unique name just I want to give. Save this out, reload this application once more, and let's see what's going around. So now if I click, awesome, success. So now we are actually navigating from booking list to booking detail. Now one more important thing, probably you need to check. So in this booking ID, if I just need to show some more information, okay, let's say an attribute, how will you do it? So for that, it is something probably good to know. Travel detail container, we are just dynamically creating this template, and we have created only so for the object list item. So if I just select this, so I'm just adding up a number attributes, number unit, and also I'm adding up some attributes called for to display the airline name. So let's quickly check this out by restarting. Voila. So now in this booking, we have those booking item and those details that pretty much we are able to now navigate back to our booking detail page. So I'm not extending this discussion because now you can get a good idea how to navigate, how to use a factory template, how to use a direct, kind of a binding of our elements. So that pretty much was the intention in our current discussion. I know it's pretty much lengthy, but intention was to achieve this routing part, which looks a little bit complicated, but if you understand how things are actually integrated and working, I think it will be real fun, and you can pretty well can now implement the routing confidently with your project. You have project. So if you have any questions, just put your questions in the comment section so that I can also answer if anything you have in mind. Thanks for watching and subscribe my channel. Don't forget it, and probably we can again come up with different discussions altogether. So stay tuned. Thank you. Bye.